a king lives really high up in a castle, and he is terribly, terribly bored. Everything around him is tiresome, but one day he hears this beautiful singing voice coming through his window, and he decides that he must find whatever fair, beautiful young girl this voice comes from. And so he walks all the way down from his castle to the streets below, and he passes by all the houses until he finds the house that the singing is coming from. He knocks on the door and he says, "Young, fair maiden, your voice has entranced me. I must see you." But inside the house is not a young and beautiful woman. Inside the house, there's two old, ugly crones, okay? Really old women who happen to be able to sing in very nice voices. And the younger of the two, they're sisters, the younger sister, she says, "Oh my God, we have got to beg the king for forgiveness so that he doesn't kill us because we tricked him." But the older sister sees this as an opportunity, and she decides that she must fool the king into thinking that she is actually a young and beautiful woman. So she tells the king, "My dear king, please come back in exactly 1 week's time, and then I will show you my finger." And the king agrees. And so he leaves for a week, and he comes back, and the old woman, she sticks her finger through the keyhole so that the king can see it, and it is the finger of a beautiful young woman. It is smooth, it doesn't have any wrinkles, because she spent the entire week rubbing animal fat all over it so that it would be smooth and moisturized. And so the king sees this beautiful finger, and he says, "Oh my gosh, this totally belongs to this young and beautiful woman." And so he starts to kiss it and caress it and lick at it, and he says, "I must see all of you. I must. You have entranced me." And he won't let her finger go until she promises to let him see all of her. And so she says, this old woman pretending to be a young woman, she says, "In exactly 1 week's time, I will come to your bedroom." And so the king agrees to that. And so then for that whole week, the old woman and her sister rub the old woman's body in animal fat to make it smooth and supple. And it does. By the end of the week, her body is smooth and moisturized, and there are no wrinkles, but she's old. And so she has a bunch of droopy skin. And so she does not look like a young woman. She just looks like a very, very sweet old woman. And they're panicking. So then all of a sudden, the young sister has a good idea. And so she runs away and she grabs a ball of twine, and she comes back and she starts to pull back all of the old woman's skin and tie it into knots behind her back, so that from the front, she does look like a much younger woman. And so the older sister, she puts on her robe and she goes to the king, and she says, "My dear, my darling, I am so shy. We must have all of the lights off." And the king agrees because he is deeply in love. And so all of the lights are off, and the king sees her, and she kind of passes for this young and beautiful woman. And so then, as they're, making love, he's touching her, he's caressing her, his hand touches the lumps of skin on her back. And he knows that's not normal, so he pushes her back and he stares at her, and he realizes that he's been fooled, he's been tricked. And he is absolutely horrified. He is so angry. He has her thrown out of the window. And so she falls down and down and down, and all of the twine that was holding her skin back rips off. And when she would have hit the ground, she actually gets tangled in the branches of a tree, being held up by her loose skin. And so she's stuck hanging there. And she hears a little voice going, "Ha ha 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 ha." And up comes this little fairy. And the fairy says to her that this is the funniest thing he has ever seen. He's going to go tell all of his friends about it. They're going to be laughing forever. And so he grants her a wish. And so she becomes young and beautiful again, and she is freed from the tree that she was trapped in. And the king happens to glance out of his window, and he sees her, does not recognize her as the woman that he just tossed out of the window. And he decides that he's going to marry her. And so he runs down and he begs her to marry him, and she agrees, even though he just tried to have her killed. And so then her sister is sent an invitation to the wedding of the new queen and the king. And she goes and she sees her sister as the young woman that she once was. And she is incredibly, incredibly curious about how this came to pass. And so she goes up and she's bothering her sister, and she's like poking her. She's like, how did you become like this? And the new queen has better things to do. She has more important people to talk to. She's already kind of tired with her younger sister. And so she says, "The barber down the street there, he skinned me, and underneath my old skin was a beautiful new young skin. And the younger sister believes that, and so she takes off running, and she grabs golden goblets and silver spoons, and she goes and she finds this barber, and she throws everything at him, and she says, "Skin me! Skin me!" And the barber is scared, and he doesn't really want to, but she paid him, and she seems desperate, so he agrees. And he slowly starts to peel up the edge of her skin, starting at her stomach and working her way up, bit by bit, until he reaches her neck and her jaw, and the whole time the old woman is murmuring, "This is what the cost of beauty is. This is what the cost of beauty is." And he gets all the way up over the edge of her face before she drops dead. And after that, the queen had better things to think about. She rarely thought about her sister. Occasionally she wondered what happened to her. But, she had a happy life to live as a queen.